How does Charles Oliveira defeat Islam Makhachev? That is the question. Can he do it? Is it even possible? Well, I'm going to tell you one path to victory for him. As we know, UFC 294 going down in beautiful Abu Dhabi, just around the corner, just under 3 weeks away. Islam versus Charles, top of the bill, main event, fighting for the toughest title in all of mixed martial arts, the UFC lightweight strap, and a stacked undercard to boot. Now, a lot of great fights, but the main event is the main event for a reason. How's Charles going to do it? Because the reality is, if Charles Oliveira doesn't defeat Islam here, I don't think he gets another shot at the belt. Not for quite some time, because there's a lot of other worthy contenders out there. And Charles went out, beat Beneil Dariush in very, very exciting fashion, in the kind of style that Oliveira always does. He's true to himself. The man's a maniac in the best type of way. But if he loses to Islam, straight away, once again, 2 times in a row, he ain't going to get another shot. So this is in some ways do or die for Charles Oliveira. So what does he do wrong? Well, first of all, let's remind ourselves how we lost the first time, right? He lost because Islam was the better fighter. Simple as that. Islam went out straight away, threw a series of blows, connected with a massive left hand that caught, that wobbled Charles. Charles then overcommitted on his strikes, threw a right hand, fell deep into him, tried to counter with a body lock, got out wrestled, got thrown down, used some leg locks to get back to the feet against the fence once again, engaged in an underhook war. Islam then threw him over, used a whizzer or a hip throw actually, but whatever you want to call it, used the overhook and used a whizzer kick, if we're going to speak like a wrestler or Daniel Cormier. And then in the second round, Charles went forward once again, threw a flying knee out of range. Islam countered that perfectly, dropped him, and then within seconds had him in a head and arm choke, and that was it. That was all she wrote. Now, Charles has rebounded since then. Of course, he beat Beneil Dariush, who was a very, very worthy contender, and that's why we're here. But even against Beneil Dariush, we saw some tendencies from Charles that won't suit him too much in this. Well, what am I talking about? The ability to get taken down, right? Now, we can slice this up, we can talk about it, we can dissect it a million different ways. It's mixed martial arts. That's what we love about this. And Charles Oliveira is a very exciting fighter. I will still say the most exciting fighter in all of mixed martial arts. Come at me in the comment section. I don't care. So what does he have to do? What does he do differently this time? Well, first of all, the man has got to be composed, okay? You got to have a game plan against somebody like Islam Makhachev that is getting better and better all the time. The striking is catching up to the wrestling. The wrestling is top of the food chain, simple as that. He's a better wrestler. He's stronger. He can match him for submissions. I mean, he choked him out. He's probably the better submission artist if we're having it right. Maybe not technically, but history shows us that he beat him via submission, so we got to give him that one as well. So Charles has to have a game plan. He can't just go forward in a blaze of aggression. He can't just be winging it. I mean, at the end of the day, when two fighters like that engage in just an all-out brawl, if Charles is doing that, it's a coin toss. Okay? It's one shot can change everything. So you got to have a game plan. All right, granted, as Mike Tyson said, everyone has a game plan until they get punched in the face. But if he does use a game plan, then what does he do? Well, he's got to use a lot of straight shots. He's got to use a lot of punches. Yeah, he can throw kicks. Charles is very, very good at throwing kicks. Against a wrestler, usually, I would say, don't throw a lot of kicks. Don't throw a lot of leg kicks because they'll catch them. But that's not really how Islam gets takedowns. He doesn't rely on that, okay? He's that good of a wrestler. He can force his own takedowns. So he can still throw kicks. But the punches, he's got to use a lot of jabs and he's got to use a lot of straight shots. And early, much to the demise and much to the dismay, should I say, of Charles Oliveira, he's got to circle. He's got to be light on his feet. He's got to be strategic. Simple as that. He has to employ some form of strategy. And that strategy for me is avoid the clinch, okay? Early, don't take too many chances, and don't throw wild shit like flying knees when you're not even in range. And I know as fans, that's why we love Charles Oliveira. That's why we love the UFC, because you see some crazy, unexpected stuff. And I'm not saying that Charles can't go out there and just wing crazy shit, throw some spinning wheel kicks and can do rolling thunder attacks and it might just work. Hey, you never know. And that'll put me in my place. But that wouldn't be what a good coach would say. So as I say, he's got to remain composed and he's got to have a game plan until the time is right. You know, remember against Beneil Dariush, Beneil again took him down from a body lock situation. Beneil got the better of that, forced him down. And then in the scramble, Charles got up, landed a beautiful head kick, and that was the beginning of the end. So as I say, he's going to use a lot of straight shots. And the main thing that he does that is maintain the range, stay away. And why is that important? Well, because then he avoids the clinch, right? Islam Makhachev dominates everybody in the clinch, okay? He did the first time when they fought, right? And there's no reason why he won't the second time. That is Islam's game. So by using the straight shots will allow him to maintain some distance, some separation. So if Islam goes forward trying to clinch, he can at least push him off. He can use footwork. He can pivot. He can stay away. You got to avoid the clinch. If a wrestler has taken you down in the past, has dominated you in that area, well then, I'm just saying, call me a scientist, call me a conspiracy theorist, call me whatever you want. But if a guy grabs you and puts you down on your ass, you want to avoid that next time. So avoid the clinch situation, because the reality is that whilst Charles is very good, he's a great grappler, he's had some good takedowns, he's beaten some awesome people, and he's got a lot of submissions. He goes for the body lock, and then in the last two fights against Beneil and against Islam, that has cost him big time. Now, of course, if he does get taken down, then he's got to use a lot of leg locks. In the first fight against Islam, he was kind of content to sit on his back in a closed guard. Of course, he was looking for submissions. He threw up some triangles, use some elbows, try and get a little bit of separation, then go for leg locks. When you go for leg locks, it creates scrambles and it allows an opportunity for you to get back to your feet. Another thing, obviously, and this is just obvious, he's going to be in the best shape possible. Simple as that. Islam Makhachev is a freak in the best possible way. I've heard stories about how Khabib runs his training camp. I spoke to Bilal Muhammad at length, and he went on about it, and the training sessions are just legendary.
It's like an army when Khabib walks into the gym. Like, you know, beforehand, we're all sitting there stretching out, talking, but when he walks in the gym, everybody lines up. He tells you, yo, you're sparring in the cage, you're sparring on the mat, you're doing this, you're doing that. There's no joking around. And if you're, even in the warm-ups, if you're doing like a bear craws or crab walks or something, if he sees you going soft, everybody does it again. If he sees you not, not fully going at it, you do it again.
The conditioning of these men is second to none. So you got to make sure that you come in the best shape possible, willing, able to go 5 rounds at a ridiculous pace. If you can't do that, it doesn't matter how good you are. Once you get tired, it's all off the table and you're going to lose the fight. So he's going to be in the best shape possible, and he's going to be as strong as possible. As we've seen, the clinch from Islam, from Khabib, all those kind of fighters, the clinch, they're so strong and they're so technical. So on top of being in the best shape possible, Charles is going to be careful not to overtrain. Because once you get overtrained, then you're going to get weaker, right? And you're trying to make 155. So the diet's going to be spot on as well. Because if the recovery isn't there, you're going to burn into the muscle mass. That's going to affect your strength. And if you're not strong, you're going to lose those clinch scenarios. You're going to lose the wrestling battle. And he can't afford to do that. Now, of course, the fight is going down in Abu Dhabi. And if you ask Charles Oliveira, he says that that's not fair, okay? It is fair. He's the champion. And Charles is getting another crack at the whip after beating Beneil Dariush. So he's very, very lucky. So he shouldn't be complaining about the location. And I'm not slagging Charles off. But you just got to get to grips with that. It's going down in Abu Dhabi. There's a massive Muslim following there, okay? I think it's a Muslim country. But Islam is a Muslim, right? So he's going to have a massive home advantage. If he went down in Brazil, you would have a home advantage. If he went down in New York, an American's going to get the home advantage. It is what it is, right? You can't go in there with that victim mindset, right? You're going to get booed, more than likely. They're very, very polite people there. So more than likely he's going to get booed, though. So you can't be thinking, oh, this isn't fair, this isn't fair. You should have the mindset of thinking, I don't care where this fight takes place because I'm going to smoke this guy. Look at that 11-fight win streak I went on. The legendary fighters that I beat in ridiculous style. And you're going to be next, regardless of where it is. Abu Dhabi, Brazil, or this room right here where I'm doing this video. But as I said earlier, it's a fight. Anything can happen, and you got to be ready for all eventualities. One shot can change everything. Just like when Charles fought Beneil Dariush, he caught him with that head kick, okay? That was the beginning of the end. It's like Mike Tyson says, I'm going to say it again, everyone's going to plan until you get punched in the face. When Charles Oliveira threw that flying knee out of range and got clipped, that was the beginning of the end. So you got to be ready for everything, but stay composed, have a game plan, maintain the range, avoid the clinch situations, but be ready for everything. Be in the best shape possible, and don't be bitching about where the fight's going down. That said, I cannot wait for this one. As I said, Charles Oliveira is the most exciting fighter in the UFC. And if he beats Islam here, you're not going to like this. he's back in the conversation for one of the greatest lightweights of all time. I said that last time. I said, if Charles beats Islam, he will be the best UFC lightweight fighter that we've ever had. Of course, that title goes to Khabib Nurmagomedov, who retired at 29-0. And his run was legendary, right? I don't even know if he ever lost a round, okay? So that was might have been a crazy comment, but I stood by it at the time. And if he'd have beaten Islam, right, who's kind of like Khabib 2.0, then there would have been a little bit of substance to that. But he didn't. He didn't. He got flatlined. He got taken out pretty easily. But I'm telling you what, that conversation starts again. But still, the fight is still 3 weeks away. Abu Dhabi, top to bottom, an absolutely stacked card once again. I can't wait for it. But what do you think? Who wins? Let me know in the comment section. Subscribe and ring the bell.